Hi, good evening. It's now 7 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started with the regular session of the Hemet City Council meeting. Linda, can I have a roll call, please? Let me get my head straight tonight. Sarah, can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Krupa?
Here.
Councilmember Wright? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Meyer? Here. Mayor Pro Tem
Here. If I could have you all stand for the invocation, which will be led by Bill Heller of the Hemet San Jacinto Interfaith Council, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, being led by Bill.
Thank you. In this moment now, I would ask that each one set aside all other matters and simply take this time to focus on the presence and the love of God within you right now. Loving Creator, we know that each one here is here by divine appointment. We are grateful for the difference that they are making, the contribution that they have to offer all of us. We set aside all doubts and concerns, and we open our minds and hearts to what is ours to receive and to give today. And for this, we give thanks. Amen.
Please join me in saluting the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. Up first, we have the consent calendar, normally items of routine in nature, enacted by one vote, one motion. Sarah, is there anybody from the public that wishes to form?
Yes, I have public members that write bill number 4 and number 5.
Okay. Anyone from staff? Anyone from council?
I'd like to pull number 3.
3?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
I know
Any others?
I did it for you.
Okay. If I can get a motion to approve the remainder.
Second.
Please vote. All right, that passes. Okay, we'll handle these in order. Number 3.
Hi, Judy. I'm glad you're here today. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. No, I'm here. Oh, it was number 4. Oh.
So number 4? Okay. So
Yeah, but we already approved it.
no, we didn't. It got pulled.
But you
Oh, okay.
approved number 3 then because it was
Oh, true. Okay.
Okay. Can I get a motion for number 3?
So moved. Second.
Please vote.
Kind of ahead of myself here.
Okay. All right. Number 4.
Did we have people from the
Sure,
from the
yeah.
public? Okay, let them speak first.
Okay, so from the public, who's out that would like to speak?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members. An objection to the investment report for not complying with Hemet's investment policy is made. Hemet City Treasurer handles $65 million. Yes, the City of Hemet has $65 million taxpayer dollars in the bank. Hemet's investment policy requires monthly filing of treasurer reports. City agenda minutes show no July or August 2016 filed treasurer reports. 2017 minutes show no May, July, August, or November reports were filed. There has never been a September 2017 report filed at all for city agenda minutes. This demonstrates a complete disregard for the city investment policy by the city treasurer. Tonight, City Council is receiving April's investment report from Hemet City Treasurer. Raise your hand if you know how many taxpayer dollars the City Treasurer just moved in the report you are receiving. How many?
How many dollars?
Yes, ma'am.
About 900.
Yeah, nearly $1 million, exactly. The report shows nearly $1 million taxpayer dollars were moved last month. Good for you guys. Raise your hand if you know the negotiable CDs percentage of the total portfolio in this report. Okay, does it exceed the allowed percentage in Hemet's investment policy? The investment policy allows 10% maximum in negotiable CDs, yet this report has nearly 11%, another demonstration of disregard by the city treasurer and a source of our objections. The city of Hemet implemented a hiring freeze and ceased purchasing. Raise your hand if you know whether the treasurer got more or less interest revenue on the $1 million just moved. Okay? Tonight's treasury report shows the old $1 million, the report you're receiving, the old $1 million paid $23,381 in annual revenue. The new investments only pay $13,500 a year, nearly $10,000 less in annual revenue. Is this one of the reasons why Hemet is in the kind of financial trouble it is in? Raise your hand if you know what banks the city treasurer put the taxpayer dollars into. Okay? Who knows you do?
City.
And another one. Do you know the ratings on those banks? No. Hemet taxpayers deserve the best fiduciary possible. The answers to tonight's questions cause me to wonder who is watching the taxpayers' $65 million. A notice of intention to circulate a recall petition of Hemet City Treasurer has been published in the Valley Chronicle. We asked the City Council to read the Treasurer's report before receiving it. We asked the City Council to direct the City Treasurer to comply with Hemet's investment policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Anybody else that wants from the public? Sorry. Okay, any comments from council?
I have a question. For Judy. Hi, Judy. So I'm not really familiar how this all works, except for the fact that I saw that $500,000 CD and the $465,000 CD that just matured. And I guess my question is, here we have approximately $65 million in investments, correct?
Well, that includes the general fund and everything.
Okay. So,
It's more like 35
okay.
million, somewhere in there. 40.
So when large amounts like this, when they mature, I guess my question too is for the city manager as well, that when we're $3 million short, is it unreasonable to think that we couldn't take that almost $1 million that just matured and use it to try and balance the budget? I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
It really depends where that money came from. If it came from the general fund, then the answer is yes. If that's a general fund investment, that's one of the more difficult things, whether it's with Judy or any other treasurer I've used for. They don't always keep track of where the money comes from, and that's the interest charged back to that fund. So that's the $64 million question.
So do we know where that money came from?
I'm not sure. I'm confused on this. What money are we talking about? That just matured?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just reinvested.
Well, I understand that, except I'm just asking,
If we want to.
is it not reasonable to think that we may have been able to not reinvest those particular CDs that matured at a time when we really need the money? That's what I'm really asking. And I know you answered it with the idea that we don't really know where that money came from, or...
But we do know what the balances are in each of the funds. And so even though the cash might be there, in order to balance the budget in the way you're talking about, we would have to use surplus funds, such as part of the 20% you set aside. So just because she has cash that matured, it doesn't mean it's spendable on our side.
Okay. That's really what I was getting at. I just wanted to know a little bit more about it. And,
Yeah, it's all pooled money,
right.
and we have it set up so that a certain amount can be invested, and we keep a certain amount for expenditures. And you invest as much as you can, but if you need it, it can always be taken out, or when it's maturing.
Yeah,
it can
that
be.
was my
Yeah,
point. But,
yeah.
so, I don't know. I'll have a sidebar.
I know.
Too many questions to ask.
Yeah, I
I've got a
know.
question along that same line. So when the CD matures and the interest is earned, are you reinvesting the original principal balance plus the interest, or is the interest
No,
going
not
back into
no,
the fund?
the interest comes to the city, and then it gets distributed amongst all of the budget.
Was the interest going back into the general fund, or is it required to go back into the fund that original investment came out of?
Well, it's pooled money, so it didn't come out of any one investment or one fund.
I think Lorena might have an answer for that also.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have, sorry about that. We have pooled cash. So when she reinvests the money, she just reinvests the principal. The interest comes to the city, and it sits in what we call an investment fund, and at year end, we divvy up that interest based on each fund's average cash balance. So the general fund will get its portion based on what it has in the bank on average throughout the year. Water fund, sewer, all the diffs, everybody gets their piece of it.
Okay, thank you.
So, wait, don't leave yet. So, do we know when CDs mature then, do we automatically know where it came from?
No.
That would enable us to know if it could be used or not.
We don't, because we pull our cash. That means that we have one checking account for all, 50 or so funds that we have. We get a better rate of return when we have more money pulled together to invest. So we pull all of our cash, plus maintaining 50 different bank accounts is not easy to do. So that's why we do it based on average cash balance. But we also, based on the investment policy, we also keep a good portion of it in as liquid cash, so it's readily available, whether it's in our money markets or it's in LAIF. And I believe the balance that we have between LAIF and our money markets exceeds our general fund balance. So you were asking earlier if we could use the CDs to balance our accounts. Because we don't run on a cash basis, the answer is no. We know through our accounting how much the general fund has in fund balance available. And so even if something matures, that doesn't mean that we can use it to balance the budget. It's a completely separate issue.
Okay.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Well, it kind of does, but go ahead.
Can I add to it? Well, I know that some of the restricted funds, we know exactly where they are because the library has $1 million endowment, so any interest gained from that goes into that account. Are there any other restricted funds like the Measure A funds or gas tax funds or any of those sales tax that we actually do investment on, or do they just sit in a cash account?
The Measure A, gas tax, anything that's a special revenue fund, sewer fund, all of our diffs, all of those are part of that pooled cash. So that $65 million is everybody's fund balance except for the LaSalle endowment. That $1 million.
Except for what?
The LaSalle endowment that belongs to the library, that $1 million we have to keep separate. So it really isn't even part of that 65 million that you see every month in that investment report. It's completely separate. The interest is booked separate. It doesn't go into the pot, to allocate out to everyone else. It's in a separate fund. It's completely tracked separate.
In your opinion, if that were part of the pooled cash, would it make more interest than what it does separately with $1 million investment?
Judy's the expert on investments. I'm not.
And
So
you really
I
can't.
couldn't tell you.
That's hard to tell. But I just thought I'd throw that out there because I was one of them that really pushed for maintaining a separate balance on that so that it would not be infiltrated with anything else in case an emergency happened to the city. But I just wanted to make as much money as possible. For
And
the
even
library.
with an emergency, we still can't touch that $1 million.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. I think this would be a good future item for a work study. I think we need to wait till we get to the ad hoc maybe and then put it under future some of those things because a couple things are really irritating.
I have a question for you. So back to the original question, are the items that are invested then tracked separately? The answer was given to us no, but it is indeed tracked separately because
They're not tracked separately.
not during the investment, but you have to know where the original amount of money came from in order to.
We don't, because it's all pooled. So for accounting purposes, we know how much belongs to each, but I couldn't tell you, one CD belongs to.
No, but I'm not
this
asking
fund
that.
or
I'm just
anything
saying
like-
the pooled amount, you know where each amount came from.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
Because that
we
was
do.
confusing when you guys answered no.
No,
Okay.
the pooled cash, yes, we
Yes.
absolutely know, and that's how we allocate out the interest, is we know everybody's balances every month.
Okay. That scared me. Thank you.
Thanks.
How do you want to proceed? Yeah, to receive and file.
Basically it is. You want a motion to receive and file or to approve?
We need to vote on the receive and file. But you had mentioned a work study that we can talk about later to get that on there.
Yes, Alan wants your attention.
What I was planning to do, bring you at the next meeting, permission to get some proposals from banks as far as what they would pay for, get some proposals from banks as to what interest they would pay on it, because we're running about 1.4, 1.5, and I'm aware of one bank that will pay us 2.8. And so I think that is the important part, is how can we generate more interest. And so I think you need to shop it. And so I thought, in your deliberations, I'd like to bring in 4 or 5 proposals from banks, and you can compare
Yeah. Well,
oranges and apples.
even CalTrust gives more than Life does. So
I'm sorry?
I said even CalTrust gives a better percentage interest rate than Life. So that's some of the things we have to put into the investment policy.
Yeah.
Well, we have to remember too that probably when some of these were even initiated, the interest rates were really low to begin with.
Right.
Now, sure, it looks really bad now because the interest rates have gone up. But back 3-4 years ago, they weren't so great. So you have to consider that as well. Now, obviously, they're twice what they were, almost 3 or 4 times. So what looked like a bad idea 5 years ago, we didn't have any choice on, really.
Right.
Today, just obviously because, how many are we going to take out that aren't matured yet that we will lose X number of dollars on? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. I'm just saying how many will it be? And that's the number to determine. But the point of it is when the investments were made initially, there wasn't that much of a choice. You have 0.4, 0.04%, big deal. But today, as they're so much higher than they were, I mean, we can't just go ahead and say, yeah, this is bad, so let's just redo it. And there's that maturity issue. So anyway, something for us to look at and certainly something for us to.
And what I have to say about that is, I brought this up a year ago, so essentially we wasted $300,000, and it's in the minutes. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was 5 years ago. I mean, we've been talking about this for a whole year, and so it drives me nuts that we cannot do anything with it. We can't change it. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
We couldn't change it. I'm just saying.
Oh, we're not changing it.
Well, we don't know if we're going to change it or not.
I'll put that in my ad hoc report.
Again, this item is now just a receive and file.
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Okay, that passes 4-1. The next one, item 5. Sarah, did you have somebody from the public for 5?
I do. Arvid Anderson and Joey Askew on this item.
Number 5. Good evening, sir.
Mayor Percival and council members, I'd like to thank you for your time and your thoughtful consideration of SB 54. I realize the meeting was a bit contentious with public input, and I really do appreciate this because this is a serious matter for us as a city, the county, and the state. Thank you for also supporting the rule of law and the Constitution by your thoughtful consideration of this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, council, citizens. I thought our last meeting was really great, especially the attorney's presentation on SB 54. In case I have my facts wrong, what we learned during that presentation is that we're already in compliance with SB 54. It doesn't affect us. What we also learned is that under SB 54, despite the scary word of sanctuary, we can still transfer any criminal undocumented immigrants into ISIS. Basically, we can transfer them to ICE. That anybody who doesn't have a criminal record but is accused of a crime, of a serious crime, can also be. We can notify ICE, and so it's not as though we're a safe haven. So essentially, what's happening is there's misinformation regarding the law. It doesn't affect us, and we have a lot of problems together as a city. We've wasted a lot of resources on this issue that we're already in compliance, and that doesn't present a threat to us. Like, we could still operate with ICE. But what it's essentially been is a campaign strategy on behalf of a local assembly candidate, Andrew Kodiak, in order to whip up, fervor around his campaign, using misinformation and people's fear, thinking that we have criminals running loose in Hemet, which we do not. Essentially, I just want to urge you to vote no on the resolution, because voting yes is kind of saying that we're okay with that. That an issue that, the state's already made a decision on, speaking of the rule of law, it's the law of the land, that state's already made a decision on it. We've spent a lot of resources on it, on something that doesn't really affect us and is really just a political game in order to take advantage of people's misinformation and fear. So I would just urge you, please to vote no on the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from council?
I'd just like to say, Joey, I agree with you that the presentation gave us a lot of very good information, non-biased, and that, yes, Hemet PD is in compliance with federal law in what we do and what they do. However, I would say that this particular resolution that we are going to be voting on tonight comes through what we as citizens and we as the city council representing citizens need to stand up and say to the state legislature and to the governor that this is wrong. You did a wrong act by passing SB 54, and we would urge the state to repeal it because it is in conflict with our U.S. Constitution. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just want to say something too, and that is, I would like to think that your statement you made about political ploy certainly would not have any influence on how we voted. Secondly, it wasn't just for us, it was for the public to listen to that presentation and to get up to speed as to what it really meant for the state and the city, regardless of whether it affected us or not. It was great information for the public to hear. So I don't think it was a waste of money or a waste of time. I think we were doing our due diligence by providing information that was vital and information that a lot of people probably didn't know. So that's where we are. That's certainly my take.
Yeah, I agree. There's too much hatred going around, and everybody wants to make SB 54 into not wanting immigrants and that kind of stuff. And the fact is that we all know people. We all probably have family members that have come here from other countries, and nobody wants to stop that from happening. There's a process that has been followed and that will still continue to be followed. And like Joey said, we need to stop we have enough other issues to deal with, and locally, this is what we can do.
Well, I agree with the comments of my colleagues on the council, and I just want to add a couple of things. From my perspective, effective and efficient law enforcement involves what I call the 3 C's, and that's cooperate, collaborate, and communicate. And SB 54, the way it was implemented, inhibits some of that. And if we need any examples, I think we can look to the tragedy that happened in 2001 on 9/11. That was a catastrophic failure of communication between law enforcement agencies. And when information is known and it's not conveyed to agencies that can make use of that information, that's a failure of our law enforcement system. And I think that I certainly am in agreement that this bill, although it doesn't directly impact how we do business, it indirectly impacts how we do business here in Hemet, because it specifically inhibits certain kinds of communication, which I believe is critical to the public safety, and that's one of the reasons that I have the perspective that I do on SB 54.
I just want to point out that everybody up here has made very valid points. The people that have spoke on both sides of this issue have made very valid points. And this issue has become very partisan, and it's become very divisive for our city, for our state, and for our nation. And when I went to Sacramento a few weeks ago and had conversations with senators and assembly members, when they debated this law, they both, on both sides of the aisle, agreed that this was bad law. And you made the point, Joey, about this being a partisan, and you're right, it is, and it was very partisan from the onset when it was introduced as a bill, and for political gain from the author who's running for United States Senator. And so there's laws have consequences, and unfortunately the lawmakers have made it a law enforcement issue when they're the ones that are, and the cops are out there just enforcing the laws that the legislature creates and makes it difficult. And ultimately, this is about the safety of our citizens and the safety of our community. And as Russ mentioned, that it's about collaboration and being able to communicate with agencies. When I was in law enforcement down in San Diego, we could have a state, a county, a city, and a federal agency riding down the freeway, all 4 lanes next to each other, did not have the ability to communicate with each other until several years after I was hired. And then we were able to communicate with each other over the radio. And that communication is key to keeping our neighborhoods and our community safe. And it's unfortunate that the state of California has pushed the people of California to where they pushed them. And all of us, I've got family who are here, are immigrants here. And the sad part about it is that the lines get blurred, and even if you read the bill, the very first word in there is immigrants. And it doesn't talk about the real issue, which is illegal immigration. This is a federal issue that we shouldn't be having this debate at a city level. We've got more pressing city issues to deal with. So we're dealing with this because the state has pushed us to this, that we need to stand up for our communities, because the local communities are being hammered by the states every day. And they're making it more and more difficult. If you were here for the budget meeting last week, you were able to see what the state has taken from the city to make it more difficult for us. And so I think this is a step in the right direction to say, hey, listen, the state of California, we think that you're doing a fine job up there, but there's bad law that you make. And they all agree that this was bad law. And Jerry Brown, before he signed it, before it went to his desk, made the author change a lot of stuff in it. A lot of stuff was in it that they made him change. But they did it because it was the Senate pro tem, and they wanted to get his bill passed. But it's still bad law. So with that, can I get a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
The 2 of them.
Please vote. That passes 5-0. Up next, item number 8. Linda, I think you...
Yes, I did pull that. And I would like our police chief. And is Jeff here? Jeff Shepard, did I see him come in? He's not here? Okay, chief.
Sorry, I think he was under the missing. I don't think he thought this item got pulled, so he left.
I'm going to have words with that boy. My only question on this is, I know we can renew this again for one more year after this one. What, in your best guess, given the cost and the service, would it be wise to stay with Ramona Animal or to go back to ask the county what they can do for us?
The actual contract is expired. We're just asking for an additional year.
Okay.
So after this, there is no further contract options to move on. This is strictly a rollover contract with the Ramona Humane Society, so the cost is remaining exactly the same as it was last year. Jeff has advised me that if we decide to move on, his best estimation is about a 2.4% increase next year.
So next year we will be going to get a bid from the county as well as Ramona?
We can. The city manager has asked us just to look at a one-year contract so we can maybe make some more long-term planning, put that into effect.
Okay. That's all I have.
Excellent. So that would include the additional funding that they requested a few months back.
Yes, last year, yeah. Time flies.
No, I thought it was just like, oh,
It was our last renewal.
as for X number of dollars more
Yes.
after we already,
Yes, they increased their cost for impounding of an animal, and it basically doubled it, but it still doesn't cover their cost.
you know, the good thing about the animal shelter is they have a lot of options for grants.
They do, and they've received, the last time I checked, was over $40,000 worth of grants just for free spay and neuter within the city of Hemet. So we are able to use those grants within the city because we do contract with them. Right.
Okay.
So just on that, they're having their annual fundraiser Saturday night at the library, $50 a ticket if you want to support Ramona Animal Shelter.
The luau.
Luau, it will be fun. So thank you. I'll move approval.
Is there a second? Okay, please vote.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, that passes 5-0. Okay, that gets us through consent. Moving on, communication from the public. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address anything that's not on the agenda? Sarah?
Yes, I have Sue Savage, and she's followed by Pat Savage.
Good evening again.
Good evening. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members. The right of taxpayers' dollars being safe and earning the highest possible interest rate does not always mean the most powerful place in Hemet, which is right here in these venerable city chambers, provides the taxpayer with safety and the best interest rate on their money. Taxpayer dollars should be in top-rated banks. The Bank of Hemet pays only $2,000 in interest each year when $15,300 could be earned. Yes, it's true, $15,000 interest earned could be obtained elsewhere instead of the $2,000 at Bank of Hemet. We want to thank Mayor Percival for talking about these concerns in person with us and saying something is being done. At 2 separate council meetings, we want to thank Hemet's treasurer, Judith Altman, for 2 separate meetings in person with us at City Hall. We particularly want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Carly Meyer for doing something about safety and taxpayer dollars in the investment policy ad hoc committee formed last year. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Carly Meyer, for doing something besides talking. Russ Brown, Linda Krupa, Bonnie Wright have not responded to numerous communications started 4 months ago regarding safety and interest rates on taxpayer dollars. We assume they understand the concerns. We have talked with the city for 4 months. Tonight's report still shows the Bank of Hemet continuing to hold nearly $500,000 taxpayer dollars not fully FDIC insured and paying $13,000 less than taxpayers could earn elsewhere. I am not talking to the right people. I thought it was here. I'm wrong. Carly just pointed that out. You guys have been talking about this for a year. Nothing's being done. So, I need to be talking to Hemet taxpayers on Twitter, Nextdoor, Hemet Valley Incidents, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Yelp. I just signed up for all these things last week. Those same taxpayers may be customers at the Bank of Hemet. Could taxpayers upset about the lack of FDIC insurance and next to nothing being paid on their taxpayer dollars express concern to the Bank of Hemet? If taxpayers express their concern as customers of the bank, would the bank then say to the city, take your nearly $500,000 out of our bank? The city is hurting our business. An intent to recall Hemet City Treasurer has been published in the Valley Chronicle. We believe the taxpayers of Hemet deserve safety and the highest possible yield on their taxpayer dollars, as is required by Hemet's investment policy. We ask the City Council to direct the City Treasurer to do the job that Hemet taxpayers deserve, where it is required in Hemet's investment policy. We ask you, please.
Thank you, sir. Pat?
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Hemet City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you this evening. This evening's topic concerns the Hemet City Treasurer. City Treasurer does not have specific office hours, but 2 Hemet citizens were at City Hall on May 15th and met with the City Treasurer, Judith Altman, in her office. The citizens asked to speak with her regarding attempting to resolve issues with the Bank of Hemet CD. The Bank of Hemet CD is for $494,000. To keep taxpayer dollars safe, Hemet investment policy requires collateral on any CD amount over $250,000, the FDIC limit on insurance. This amount is $244,000. The Bank of Hemet CD has been provided to each city council member. The city treasurer insists that the Bank of Hemet CD is backed by collateral per the Hemet investment policy. As you have seen, there is no mention of collateral on the face of this CD. Per the investment policy, the collateral must be 110% of non-FDIC value in federal securities held by the bank, or 150% in mortgages held by the bank. Strangely enough, neither federal securities nor mortgages are backed by any insurance. What this amounts to is that the bank must pledge $268,400 in federal securities or $366,000 in mortgages to qualify as collateral for this $244,000. This is quite an obligation. We have not seen any evidence nor obligation statement by the bank. If non-existent, this would leave that $244,000 at risk. The Bank of Hemet CD at 0.4% earns only $2,000 a year as opposed to over $15,000 a year it could earn elsewhere. Judith Altman, City Treasurer, stated an unwillingness to do anything about the Bank of Hemet CD. If you had a $500,000 CD, lucky you, and you found you could increase your return on that investment from $2,000 to $13,000 to $15,000 a year and a possibly safer investment, wouldn't you change it? Sadly, the meeting with Judith Altman ended with her insisting that the citizens were not listening. We asked this esteemed City Council to direct the City Treasurer or Finance Director to remove the Bank of Hemet CD funds and put it in a fully insured repositories at a higher competitive rate. If necessary, and unfortunately, this may be in a different institution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Your next speakers are Heather Barclay, and she will be followed by Jason Tubman. Thank you.
Hey, Council, I'm very pleased to speak with you. It's been a while. I started reporting to Hemet PD regarding neighborhood, what I called fast moves, missing persons, large quantities of neighbors all of a sudden just gone. Since then, I've been getting arrested by your police department. I've been 5150'd by your police department. I just got out of jail again last Friday. Officer Hall 5150'd me again. I'm getting the same officer every time. I need help communicating. I need help getting to the right person to report. And now it's regarding me and my safety. I have somebody who's a fraudulent family member in my house. Your police are not assisting me with removing any possessions. They are not assisting me with this person at all. They insist that she has a restraining order on me. I've checked in the court. She does not. So what I need is I need help communicating with the police or ICE or somebody who handles local terrorism and somebody who has really tried hard to report. I've tried the best that I can to get information through and to get help to people that I cannot do on my own. If I see something in action, I am responsible for doing the best I can to assist the victim. I've tried reporting. I've tried everything I can. But to come into I've even walked into the police station and been arrested for trying to report. So what I need is I need somebody to speak to as soon as possible in regards to local terrorism. And I'm Heather Barclay. I am the dog. It's very popular. It's a big, big deal. So any response, I'll be here, but I do need somebody before I leave to talk to.
If you could see our police chief, have him talk to you outside.
You want me to do that now?
You can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Tubman.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Thank you for your time Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. My name is Jason Tugman. I have a speech prepared. I haven't done anything like this before, so I'm a little nervous, and so just bear with me, please. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Tugman, and I am tired of school shootings. I'm a combat veteran with the U.S. Army and currently a registered nurse. I used to work at Hemet Valley Medical Center right here in the ER. I know I'm not the only person. I know I am not the only person sickened by the frequency of school shootings, so I decided I'm going to do something about it. I decided I'm going to get myself into shape. I will be hiring a personal trainer, and I will be doing so. While doing so, I will be making educational videos on diet, exercise, cooking, and meal preparation aimed at school-age children and teenagers. Thus, arming these children with the power of self-confidence through fitness. I truly believe that there is a connection between bullying and these horrific school shootings. Let's address the bullying through fitness. It's a start. When I was a kid, I was bullied for being overweight. Let's teach these kids how to lose weight if they want to, bulk up if they want to, improve their already existing athletic ability. You name it. In essence, I would like to start a fitness movement to fight bullying and school shootings. The more people involved, the better, and I will be starting a nonprofit organization for this purpose. I could use as much help as possible, and that's it. What I'm really looking for is your opinion as far as this idea. I think that I'm very emotional about it, and I'm very positive about it. I'm losing sleep about it. I'm excited. I think that maybe guns are the problem, maybe guns aren't the problem, but I do know that if we can reach out to the kids and make a difference at that level, I know that it can't hurt. It'll help. So that's what I'm here for, and I would like to get everyone's input or everybody's help as much as possible to try to get this off the ground. And thank you for your time.
If you're going to be here for the whole meeting, yeah, come by and see me. I'll give you my card. So you can give me a call, and I can arrange a meeting with myself and then somebody from the school district. So,
yes, sir. That's perfect. That'd be great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Seeing no more communication from the public. I'm sorry, no. Ma'am, your time, you had your opportunity, and then I gave you the opportunity to talk to our chief to get you the information you needed, so thank you. Item number 17, Know Where It Goes, Hemet Outreach Team, Mayor Pro Tem Meyer. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, number 17 on our agenda, we've put together a 5-year action plan, the homeless outreach team, and I'm kind of bringing it to council so that we can possibly adopt this, endorse this plan as a city, and proceed with different community events that we have planned to educate the public on not giving. And when we say panhandling, it's giving at all that is not responsible. So whether you're delivering meals in the park, and I know we've talked about this many times, or, you know, leaving blankets and dirty clothes out, or hand-me-downs. The people that live on our streets, there's different problems that each one has, and those need to be addressed according to their needs. And giving them old food, giving them old clothes and old blankets just creates a littering problem. It doesn't address the issues. And so what we have gone through and done, and as you go through this report, you can see there's a survey that we've done with our business community. We've empowered businesses up and down Florida, and we continue to do that because it's going to be a long process. Our volunteers have been meeting with the business owners, giving them information, giving them contact information, so that when the businesses encounter problems with our homeless, they have a number to call and we can get them help. So we have partnered with all of the resources in town, and it has really brought our group together. So we want to maximize the impact. The number one is for the service organizations, providing the local businesses with solutions, and kind of partnering with them too, so that they don't feel stuck. If we have someone that is constantly urinating or constantly, using the restroom at the place of business, we can work with that person to get them to a place where they're not staying there all night and doing that. We have spoken with the Parks Department about, the possibilities of having restrooms, even if they're porta potties, somewhere so that we can have the people on our streets have a place to use the restroom. We're working on all of these different plans so that we have business solutions. We want to engage our community in responsible compassion, and we've talked about what I don't know. It's like 30 seconds. I'm just going to talk about it.
Can you please speak into the microphone?
She asked if I was going to show a video, but I'm not showing a video. There's a 30-second video that we have put together. But essentially, our panhandlers are getting $150 a day. Our panhandlers are not necessarily the homeless people on our streets. So getting all of this information and documenting it has taken a lot of time. And, everyone comes in and they want to fix the homeless problem, and it's not something that just is going to go away. Since the beginning of time, there has been people sitting at city gates. So for whatever reason, we're going to address the people that we have. What we do want to do is discourage the people, and part of this taking a stand or adopting this is so that other cities know that we have a plan. And they don't need to be sending their homeless people here. Every community needs to deal with their population of homeless people. So as we move forward, back to this is $150 a day. That equals $2.7 million a year to meet the quote-unquote needs of the people of 50. That's only 50 panhandlers. So if you go to point number 4, we need to prioritize our community resources. And this is even the money that you have in your pocket. If you're coming out of Smart and Final and you're hit up and you don't want to bother with them, you don't want to be harassed by them, you don't want to be, I think they bully some of the older folks in our town. I've watched them. I've seen a man beat on a lady's window and scare the tar out of her because he wanted money. And that's unacceptable. And so we don't need to be giving for any of these reasons. We need to be giving responsibly to these different organizations. On 4 here, we have the prioritizing our community resources. This pie chart has the $2.7 million that we, I would say, is a conservative estimate of how much that we give, especially the people that I've spoken to on our streets since I've completed this data have pretty much assured me that they get well over $150 a day.
Let me just interject real quick.
Yes.
When Carly says we give, it's not the city giving the money. It's the people that live in this community that give
I'm saying we as citizens, I'm not necessarily even you, but there are some people in our town, and apparently quite a few that give money to this. So a local organization that takes care of 226 people, and this is kind of the key of what we're doing. They service 226 people a year, and it costs $420,000 to operate this. That provides them food and shelter. It gives them, it helps them find jobs, and it gets them on their feet into a permanent situation. And with that $2.7 million, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's over 6 places that $2.7 million can fund. So would you rather give to 50 people with $2.7 million or 1356? That's a big difference. And I think that we as citizens need to also decide to adopt this, to take a stand. We need to stand for something. And in our town, we have a homeless problem. And instead of giving and creating a bigger problem, we can encourage these people and get them into homes or facilities. There's all different, there's ranches, that will help them. There's drug rehab centers. There are places that will take your money, your time, your donations of any type. We just need to give responsibly. And then number 5 goes over the solutions for housing. If we have 84,000 people in our town, and if everyone gave $15 a year, look how much that would give us our $2.7 million. So there's ways for us as a community to come together to solve problems. This is a humanitarian problem. This isn't something that we need a special tax for. But out of the goodness of our hearts, we need to decide, even as a community, is this something that you want? The next page has the business survey on panhandling. You can see this on the survey that Midtown is hit the hardest. So this is pretty blurry on mine. But you can, we have that survey. We go to the next page. We have streamlining and having cohesive team communications. So what we've done in the past, like over the last few years, probably since I was a kid, probably before you've been on council, there's always somebody who wants to, no, you were not on council. There's all the organizations that help the needy in our community. And each one is working by themselves. And so what we've tried to do is bring everyone on the same page as far as giving to the needy and getting the lines of communication open. We work with our police department, and the police department now has direct lines to the different organizations, and we're able to get people the help they need when they need it. So communication is key. There is also a page in here on local job placement. Everyone wants to, I hear often that people want, if they only had jobs, then they wouldn't be on the streets. Well, it doesn't necessarily work that way. We would all love to think that, but there are jobs in this valley that are open and that will hire people with records. Their biggest problem in keeping these people employed is them passing the drug test consistently. They provide, it is an entry-level job. You join, you apply, you pass the health screening, and you can work with no experience because they provide on-the-job training. It's construction type work, manufacturing, and it's a good opportunity. They have taken a risk and they have hired people. They don't always stay, and so that's sad, but maybe someday we'll have enough volunteers to have job coaches. And so we've kind of added that in our long-term planning. And on the last page, it just has a list of the different organizations that have worked with us. So I just wanted to bring this to council. We have different things that we would like to do in the future. The parking lot events, we have some owners that have actually okayed for us to go into their parking lot and do some community education, kind of like the neighborhood night out. And we have volunteers ready to do that. So we just want to bring this to council for, I don't know, your endorsement as the city, I guess. So you guys can talk about it.
Questions?
How about comments?
Comments too.
I think this is great outreach, absolutely super outreach. And trying, all of you that are in the audience, absolutely kudos to all of you. It is a really difficult thing to get everybody on the same page. And we are a generous community and always will be. And it sometimes takes a lot of education to, as our former police chief always used to tell his mom, Joe.